This video is for entertainment purposes only. None of the information you are about to hear should be considered medical advice, and you should always consult a licensed medical practitioner before embarking on a health or lifestyle change. Okay, so that started. So welcome to Keto Conversations, Natasha. It's definitely good to meet you here.
And you?
Yeah, I guess we found each other on Instagram. I don't know. We've been following each other for I'm not sure how long, but
A
there's just
while.
there's so many people on Instagram that it's hard to keep up with
Well, and also you
sometimes.
don't all see all everybody's posts, do you? It's sort of
No, that's the
it's
thing.
very
Like
rapid. Yeah.
there's certain people you see all their posts, and then there's certain people that you never see any of their posts. So
Mm.
I do appreciate you reaching out when I started looking for new guests for this new season of Keto Conversations. So and I've been going over your page, and you've got some really good information on there. So
Thank
I
you.
guess basically we could usually just start on this with what got you into the sort of health space to begin with, and how's the journey for you been, and then we can get into just some more specifics after that kind of thing.
Sure. Sure. So my journey started over 10 years ago. So I started in 2012. I'd had a lifetime. How old was I then? I was 41, and I'd had a lifetime of yo-yo dieting. I'd been an overweight kid since sort of the age of 7, and I'd gone through so many different diets and um, different stages, I suppose, and doing all the things you're supposed to do, trying to stick to low calorie and upping my exercise and, just calorie counting, all low fat, all that sort of stuff. But I also coupled that with periods of just not giving us stuff, and just eating to the point of, I'd lose weight, then I'd put it back on, and I just could not understand if I'm pretty good at sticking to things. I stuck to things religiously, and then the weight came back later on, and I thought this can't be right. This cannot be right for I'm doing it right, but it's not working. So I got to I did in the UK. We have a thing called Slimming World, and I did that twice, and I kept thinking, if this works so well and everybody's doing it, why do I have to do it twice? By accident, I went into a health supplement company in 2012, and it suddenly struck me that whatever we were eating manifests itself in our health or our weight, good or bad. If whatever you eat is reflected on the outside, and that's where my journey started. And I don't know, I gave up sugar that year, and I gave up gluten, and then I decided to get a qualification, and it's just not stopped from there. I mean, I'll probably never stop learning, but now I've specialized in type 2 diabetes and the management of that, and actually that has made the nutrition stuff, ramp up even more, because everything to do with a type 2 diabetic is reflected in people that don't have diabetes. So the same things that happen in a diabetic is happening in people that will never get diabetes, but all the same health effects, the weight gain, or everything about it is all down to that insulin resistance. And that's really where I concentrate all my information on, trying to get people into the low carb world. Keto, of course, is part of that. I'm more of the low carb mindset, because we don't measure ketosis, but because I use fasting in my approach, of course, we have ketosis. We're just not measuring it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think the one thing you said right from the beginning there is like ultimately you know the old saying, you are what you eat, you know, it is exactly true. What you put in is what you're going to get out of your life, and it's you know, and I agree. Like my whole channel is about keto,
Yeah.
just to put a label on it, but you know, I find myself more sort of carnivore-ish kind of thing. Uh, Ultimately, I just try to eat real food
Yeah.
and go from there, basically. So
Yeah.
are you like working with clients with this kind of like trying to get help for type 2 diabetics, like working with specific?
No, I don't specifically help type 2 diabetics. I specialize now in weight loss,
Hmm.
and I've gone through, various different stages where I was focusing just on women, and then I keep having men as clients, and it just comes down to now I've focused very much on people that were born in the 1960s and 70s,
Okay.
because we've had such a number done on us, as
Hmm.
in the food beliefs are so ingrained. Whatever comes out now, they kind of that generation kind of have a default, and this setting where we can't quite get our minds around the fact that sugar causes us a lot of problems. And when I talk about sugar, I'm talking about all types of carbohydrate. And yeah, some people will not put on weight when they eat carbohydrates, but the health risks are still there.
Hmm.
So, you could be as thin as a pin, eating poorly, and still have really bad health. So I kind of go at it. I help people with the goal of weight loss, but my absolute aim, as you've just said, is the health aspect. Once
Hmm.
you're healthy, the weight comes off, and not the other way around. Everybody thinks losing weight is going to make you healthy, but you've got to get healthy first, and then your body sorts the weight side out for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've stuck to that sort of mindset whenever I talk to people about it as well. Because you're 100% right. It is sort of, and even the diet industry of the world these days only ever focus on the pounds. That's it. You know, especially the companies that make money off you not succeeding. You know, it's all about pounds, pounds, pounds. But none of these, you know, programs really ever focus on the health of the the patient or the client.
But
You know, you're.
they want you to be confused, don't they? They want you to stay confused, because then
Mhm.
you'll be a lifetime customer. You
Yeah,
know, I would
yeah,
have definitely been a lifetime customer of Slimming World if I hadn't by accident discovered, the route that I have gone. But I think people can't shed that mentality, especially on it seems to make sense. A lot of the health myths that we have are because they're simple to recognize. So when people go, each pound of fat is 3,500 calories, and if you just reduce your weekly intake of 3,500 calories, you will lose a pound of weight. And it just does not work like that. Our bodies are
right.
so complex.
Yeah.
But it makes sense to people, and that's why they stick to it. And so even when they try something new, and of course the diet industry are brilliant at spinning it, this is a fad. I mean, how can low carb be a fad
Mm.
when it was what we used to do pre-agriculture? It just doesn't make sense that we've all bought into that, but they just keep drumming it into us, don't they? So
Hmm.
we've got the NHS in the UK, and everybody just hands their health to it and just says, right, okay, it's free. Here you go. Here's my health. You tell me what pills I can take, what, wonder surgery I can have, and also tell me what I should eat. And they've got it so wrong. But they can't do a U-turn now, can they, Jason? No one can do a U-turn now and say, actually, we got that wrong. Loads of people have died because of it, but we got it wrong. They can't say it. They're stuck.
Yeah. Unfortunately, doesn't matter where you are, like here, the US, the UK, unfortunately, the governing bodies are basically owned by the big food companies. And, so there's always a push to the wrong direction, and you're right. I think ultimately the turnaround is going to have to come from, it's not going to come from above, unfortunately, because everything is, like you say, there's no way they can say, hey, wait a minute, we've got it wrong for the last 30 years, because then they're admitting that they did, ultimately kill people in the process. But the governing bodies are so ingrained with these big food companies. So of course, what are they're corporations. Their goal is to make sure that people are addicted to their products, and they've spent a lot of money getting the powers that be to promote it. I don't know if you saw the latest out of the U.S. about the new food pyramid, where
I haven't looked at that. I did see that there was a new one. What's it saying now on that?
Well, basically, the one takeaway from the new information they're putting out there now is that Fruit Loops are more nutritious than steak. Yeah. So, and that just goes to show that, but the problem is that all of these studies and all of this information is coming directly from like the big nine corporations that control, 99% of the food that's out there, right?
Yeah.
So
and it still keeps coming back to this thing that red meat is bad for you, and yet, it literally makes me so crazy over it, because if we really said to ourselves, let's just have a look at the nutrition levels in steak, say, or nutrition levels in something else that's supposed to be protein filled, I don't know, tofu, let's say that, or pea protein. Pea protein's a flipping fantastic one,
right.
Because for a start, you're going to get all your amino acids, your amino acid profile in steak. And they're not even sure whether we actually even uptake the protein in pea protein. And it's bad for the gut, and a lot of people are allergic to it. And of course, steak has been around for millions of years.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course, the people that are making money out of pea protein or Fruit Loops, as you say, are going to promote that. But nearly every single client, and I mean without fail, that I've had in the last 8 years, has said to me, I need to reduce my red meat intake. So that, I mean, it's so widespread now that how are we going to turn the tide on that, Jason? That's really the crazy thing. How are we going to turn the tide?
Yeah, and you're right. And the unfortunate problem with this is that they're sort of using the climate as a reason to reduce the amount of meat that people consume, because they're blaming all of the climate issues on agriculture, even though
agriculture is actually one of our answers, isn't it? So
yeah,
that's again, another crazy myth, and they've already disproved it, but it's so stuck. That original study that misquoted, the amount of methane and stuff like that was sequestered in, all the nitrates and whatever it was. and they've already disproved it, but it's stuck. And anybody, is now so gung-ho and sticking with it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's become this urban myth, and so we're again stuck with people believing that that's the problem, whereas monocropping has stripped our earth and made massive deserts, and all we need to do is get a load of ruminants back on there pasturing, moving them around, and we'd put it back in. So
Yeah.
it's part of the solution. It's not the problem, it's the solution. So again, we've got to turn the tide on that, but we're not going to, because who's got the money?
Yeah.
The people who have the power and the money are the people that are still pushing plant proteins at us.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you're right. It's the investors, and, I won't name any, specific names, but there's people out there that want to see us eating bugs, and, uh, but, and like you say, the pea protein and the tofu and the soy and all that. But so they're the ones that are pushing the narrative away from ruminant animals, and it's solely to allow them to take over the food. Uh,
And make huge profits. No
yeah.
one's going to make a load of money out of steak in the same
Hmm.
way they're going to make money out of Beyond Meat.
Right.
But the good thing is, I think the consumer is speaking loudly and clearly, because the stock values of those companies has gone down, because people have gone, you know what, this doesn't taste that great, and
Hmm.
also look at the amount of ingredients there are in here.
Yeah.
So I think it will always come down to taste in the end, won't it? Because you'll think, God, it just doesn't taste that great either.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, yeah, like, as far as the question is how we're going to turn it around, I haven't come up with the answer yet either, but and that's why I do things like this, is because I see that there is a movement. Like, there's Instagram's a good starting point of trying to get your message across. There's lots of people in the sort of keto, low carb, carnivore space to get the message out there. But you're right. Unfortunately, the masses are so stuck in the past, and believing what they've been told,
Mm.
that it's hard to reach everyone. I feel, unfortunately, it's going to get to the point where it's almost too late before
Mm.
the majority of people realize what's being done.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping, I'm trying to stay positive that we're not going to get to this situation where we're going to get meat taxes and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what we really need is a very, very charismatic figure to come from nowhere, to
Mm-hmm.
be the voice of reason, to actually say to people, have a little think about this. This food's been around for a long, long time, and the stuff that we've been eating for the last 50 years, look at what's happened in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single chronic disease has gone through the roof, and obesity is off the chart now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only since we've started to take on this ridiculous mantra of not eating the foods that we were born to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, nobody can forget that. It's literally, once you start to look into it, you think, God, why did I never think of it like this? I was not designed to eat low-fat yogurt, 7 of
Mm-hmm.
those a day, full of aspartame. And also, once if you're eating anything that's stripped of its fat, it's not going to give you the nutrition that it was designed to have. So take all the fat out of milk, and you don't get the calcium, you don't get the any of the vitamins, because the
Mm-hmm.
fat is there to unlock it.
Right. Yeah, all skim milk really does is make you gain weight because
Oh,
it's
yeah, because
they've taken all the nutrition out of it, but they've left sugar in there.
absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, now yeah, I'm sure we could talk about that whole conundrum for hours.
Okay.
But you were mentioning that you like to use fasting as part of your 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 program kind of thing.
Yeah.
What kind of like just intermittent fasting, or is it more of a doing long term fasting
I, I,
periodically? Or
yeah, I fast every day. So when I talk to clients, it's got to fit in with people's lifestyle as well. But
hmm
I mean, the latest research in the last year, I'm sure you're across it, is eating earlier in the day. So, sort of finish eating by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Whereas for many years, I used to do OMAD, one meal a day, and probably eat it at about 6 o'clock in the evening. But now I tend to eat mostly at lunchtime. So I might start eating at 12 and finish by half two. I might have a couple of meals in that time or not. It just depends on the day.
hmm
But every now and again, I'll do an extended fast. I generally never go past 48 hours because I find that autophagy has peaked at that point. I feel good after doing a 48-hour fast. Maybe only do that once a month. But it just depends on the individual. My son, who was a teenager when I first helped him. He was sort of 17, and he was, oh God, I can't remember what it is in. Do you work in stone or pounds? Anyway,
in pounds,
he was
yeah.
he was very overweight. He lost 70 pounds in about 6 months,
Wow.
and with my help, and
hmm
he helped to shape what I do now. So if a teenager can do it, anybody can do it.
hmm
And that was 4 years ago, and he stuck to it. And so he was very much like my biology at his age. I was overweight at the same age, but I had no way to get it off.
hmm
Um, but he uses fasting, and so that's a young man. Whereas I obviously work with a lot of people in their sort of late 40s, 50s, and they might do an 8-hour eating window, 16-hour fast, chop and change. The most popular is probably 18-hour fast.
hmm
So yeah,
Yeah, I tend to, whether I mean to or not, I'm sort of the 8 hour window, and
yeah,
typically like noon till 8 p.m. is what I usually stick to for an eating window. I've never actually tried sort of moving that up, and because I do know that if I eat too close to when I go to bed, it interferes with my sleep, and that's one thing. After doing this for 4 years, is I've really tried to focus on my sleep hygiene, trying to get that as dialed in as I can.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, you're right. Maybe cutting off the eating window a bit earlier would be even better to let your body finish digesting whatever you had before you do go to bed.
And also our pancreases go to sleep at about 7.
Mm,
So it's often a good idea to finish by 7 p.m. But it has been a game changer for me. I'm in menopause, and so, or perimenopause, and so moving it earlier made me drop weight that had plateaued, and I was very surprised by that because I kept thinking, how's this going to work? But it really does. I suppose if you're moving it earlier in your day, you're still using quite a lot of energy after that point. So if you finish at
mm,
3, you're still active, for a larger part of the day after eating. So I don't know why it works as well as it does, but it really does. Well,
Mhm.
I've certainly found it does.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it does make sense. Like you say, if you do finish your close off your eating window earlier, just being, even if you're not like specifically active and like walking or exercising or
Absolutely.
anything, you're just being awake,
Yeah.
you're burning energy, right?
Yeah,
So,
and we use a lot of energy at resting. So
mhm,
I think a lot of people, that's another thing, that people think that it's your couch to 5K is going to do the job, or whacking down the gym, but you can't outrun a rubbish diet. So
mhm,
a lot of people, we've seen it. People with low mobility can lose a lot of weight on keto or low carb without exercise, because
yeah,
it's all about the food. It's
for
all
sure.
about not, upping those, your body being awash with sugar all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, the whole fasting thing to me is, and again, like I was saying earlier, I fast not sort of purposely.
Hmm.
It just it's just the way I've never been someone who likes to eat early in the day. And with my job, like half the time I don't have time, or I don't make time in the middle of the day for
Hmm.
meals. I'm
Yeah.
trying to. I realize that, unfortunately, and I don't know if you've seen this with any clients, when they start seeing results from fasting, and then they think, oh, well, if it did this by having an 8-hour window, what happens if I do even less and then less and then less? I've almost tend to see, and I've experienced myself, where you get to a point where you're not actually eating enough, uh,
Mm. No, I
because
agree.
of the fasting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm very aware of the amount of protein and fat that I take in the time that I eat. Um, But also, I think with fasting, it's probably not a good idea to get into a very fixed pattern, because our bodies need the stressor that is the uncertainty
Hmm.
of different periods of fasting. So, there might be days when I'll eat for longer, or there are days where I'll eat for shorter. It kind of depends on the day, but it's
Hmm.
good to keep your body on its toes and to chop and change a bit, especially people that plateau. There's a lot of people give up because they go, it's not coming off like it was. And so, kickstarting, maybe getting all that liver glycogen out, with a 48-hour fast, just kicks you off again. And then you might eat normally the next day, as in normally for, people that don't do fasting. So you might eat over a 10-hour period. But the benefits, are felt further into the next day anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And I found when I've changed things up, it does, you know, definitely help kickstart things. And that's why I've heard some people say like an alternate day fasting kind of deal can help. But what concerns me a lot of times is everyone, or a lot of people I see, and I've seen this on Instagram for years. The alternate day fast is great, but you still need to have that nutrients that on the days that you're eating, you need to, just because you're not eating one day doesn't mean you should, eat in a deficit the next day. Right.
Oh,
And that,
yeah.
unfortunately, that's, and I'm guilty of it myself.
Mm,
I look back sometimes and I think, well, what did I eat yesterday? And I'm like, oh, geez, that probably wasn't even 1,000 calories.
mm,
I wasn't hungry, but I'm like, well, I'm
yeah,
53 years old and I'm, 6 feet.
yeah,
I need to be eating, over 2,000 calories a day.
that's right.
But, so I'm guilty of it too. It's just a matter of
Mm,
staying focused on it.
yeah, I mean, as long as you are, obviously we're in the mindset that everything that goes in is real food.
Mm-hmm.
and you're getting enough so that you can build your body into the future, because I think a lot of people think that something else is going to save them.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be this amazing technological advance. Everybody thinks that they're because we're living longer, but we're living longer in poor health. And
Mm-hmm.
who wants that? I've got my dad was diagnosed with dementia last year. He's got Alzheimer's, and he was always a very slim man, and 100% the food that he ate over a lifetime has contributed. So obviously now I have those genes, but to express those genes is to not eat well.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason these different health outcomes happen to us is because we're not eating the right food that can stop it happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he's had a very sweet tooth and eaten carbohydrates with every flipping meal. He was the type of guy that, again, because he was so slim, he'd eat at work and then come home and eat again.
Mm-hmm.
Using a lot of energy. And again, it's these people going, oh, what I do is I hit the gym so that I can have that cake later, or they just
Mm-hmm.
don't get that cake is storing up trouble later on. It's have it occasionally, have it on high days and holidays, have it at Christmas or whatever, but not 365 days of the year where you're rewarding yourself because you've hit the gym. And I see so many people like that. They're literally, well, yeah, then I can drink more beer if I've worked out for
Yeah.
2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. 100% correct. And I was that way, before I started, really looking into things like keto. You go to the gym and you think, okay, well, but even then I was trying to eat healthy, but I was, I went the low fat calorie deficit route, and, it definitely didn't last very long. So
Mm.
it for me, it's a lifestyle that's driven by a mindset for me. Like I don't, like I know, like you say, having something that you shouldn't be eating, periodically, a couple times a year or whatever. I never begrudge anyone that on their lifestyle either, if you can manage it. Personally,
Mm.
I can't. So I just avoid it altogether, because
Yeah.
I don't have the mindset to say, okay, I'm going to do it
Oh,
once, and then
gotcha.
I'm going to be,
Yeah.
because with me, if I do it once, then the floodgates will open, and it'll be, I'll get wrapped up in carbs again, and
Yeah. That's
after
fair enough.
after feeling better every year for the last 4 years, I just don't see any point in it. So.
I totally agree. I mean, I think that's the self-fulfilling part of eating well. You
Hmm.
you can't go back to how you were. It's just you can't unknow the stuff either. And
Hmm.
so just that feeling, so the occasional meal out with friends or whatever, and I think, oh, maybe I'll have dessert.
Hmm.
And then the next day I just think, why did you have that? It was pointless. Yeah, your body takes it because our bodies are amazing at adapting
Hmm.
and sort of trying to cope with these things. But I never feel good afterwards, and so I
Right.
never want to go back that into those days where I had no energy, where I had terrible skin. I mean, that was another major part of my life. I had chronic eczema for 42 years, so I can't go back there
Hmm.
ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And like I say, I think it comes down to each individual has to make that determination of whether or not you can, handle going back to eating what you were before, and then saying, okay, well, tomorrow I'm just going to get back on plan and,
Mm.
continue on. And, but I think the one problem that I've seen is that a lot of people who think they can do that can't,
Yeah.
and that's what derails them. So,
Yeah.
Like I say, everyone's different. You know, there's lots of, and as your journey gets along, if you don't have any underlying issues, a lot of people can tolerate, you know, upping their carbs as long as they're whole food carbs like fruits and stuff like that. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
again personally don't do any of that, but you know, it's everyone starts at a different place, and everyone has a different road down their journey.
Yeah, but that is another one of those food myths that people think they should eat more fruit and veg, and they're talking more about fruit because fruit's more palatable, and yet
Hmm.
fruit is is going to keep them addicted to sugar, and it's just converting to fat again. So I tend to avoid fruit and entirely
Hmm.
because I just don't see the point. And also, it was a myth. It was one of those, let's sell more fruit, and so they
Hmm.
got this 5 a day stuff going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's
yep,
fun.
absolutely. That's and again, it all comes back to how do these companies try and sell more of what they're selling. So, um, now, do you personally or work with people helping them track like their intake, like their macros, or
Not particularly. What I'm more interested in people having a little bit of freedom. So I do give advice. My program is online, so it's a membership online,
mm-hmm,
and they get to check in with me as well as going through the program, and they have lifetime support with that. But I just make sure that they know that they really need that the protein really is the most important thing that they need to be checking in on,
mm-hmm,
making that a priority. Green leafy vegetables is a good way of maybe getting some fiber in there. But I'm a bit like you. I know it's slightly different. I'm not wholly carnivore, but I do definitely concentrate more on meat and fish and eggs than
mm-hmm,
I do on anything else. Because that's where the nutrition is, and so that's you're going to get a bigger bang for your buck by eating those foods and making sure I'm not into really adding more fat in than you need to. I prefer to have the fat that gets grown with the food. So, whether it's in bacon or steak or whatever it is.
mm-hmm.
So, so it's yes, we don't track macros, we don't track
Yeah,
ketones or anything. Don't track anything. It's got to fill you up. You've got to make sure you've got enough energy on board, and it's more it's more about because it's going to be a lifestyle. I want people to have that freedom to know that they haven't got to weigh out a certain amount of anything.
mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I think that's a great approach. You're right. I think if you anyone that wants to get into a lifestyle like this, I know when I first started keto, everyone's like, "Oh, fat, 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 fat." It's like, okay, well, but then nobody pays attention to protein.
Mm.
Where I'm in the same mindset too. Like the way I look at it is, if you prioritize protein and make it your main focus, then the fat and everything else will, fall in line behind it.
Mm. Yeah, it gets included. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So.
And the mad thing is as well, I mean, our bodies have literally only got cut-offs for fat and protein. So if you
Hmm.
try and eat a whole, which I have attempted, Jason, a whole side of pork,
Hmm.
you get to a point, very shortly, and you can't eat anymore.
Hmm.
Whereas, a massive bowl of pasta with maybe some garlic bread on the side, you can keep going. And then you'll have dessert as well,
Hmm.
because we don't have a cutoff for carbohydrate.
Hmm.
And so this argument that we're supposed to be loading up our plates with, a third of carbohydrates it makes no sense, because, and especially the moderation mantra, everything in moderation. Nobody has moderation if they've got no cutoff. They'll just keep going.
Sure. Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's if I load up on steak and eggs or whatever, you're right. You can't overeat that kind of food, because you actually, and that's the biggest thing for a lot of people, unfortunately, is that most people don't actually know what it is to be full and satiated. And until you prioritize the protein and the fats, like you say, you never really get that feeling.
That's it. I also think that people aren't aware of being really, truly hungry. So, on the opposite side of things, so the fact that you don't eat until sort of 12, a lot of people, of course, get up and literally that's the first thing they do is eat. And yet we've stored all that excellent energy overnight, and we're getting up and we want to use that energy. And getting really hungry means that the food tastes better, you get full quicker, because it's hitting the spot straight away, isn't it? And it's fueling you, and you don't get that slump either. I don't know about you, but previously, and a lot of clients are amazed at that even if you eat at lunchtime, you don't get the afternoon slump if it was protein and fat based.
Right. Yeah, and that's I definitely, if I ever do eat lunch, it's mainly just like ground beef and eggs, and that's it. I know it's boring, but you're right. If you look at it as just, okay, well, I need some fuel for the afternoon, and this is what's going to keep me awake and keep me going until my next meal. So yeah, I think that the whole, again, it comes back to the advertising. It was always, oh, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Well, to who? Kellogg's.
Well, that's where it came from, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So.
It came from. And again, £1 billion industry, the amount of money they make, and it's literally, just a very religious woman writing in his little pamphlet, pre 1900, talking about breakfast being important, and that's what we've based it all on since then.
Yeah. You're right. It is crazy, but all we can do is try and change things one person at a time, I guess. So
that is exactly it, isn't it? I think if there's we'll only tip the scales if there's more and more of us, getting the point across, and well, fingers crossed. As I say, I'm still of the mindset. I'm being really positive about this. If we wake up enough people, I think as well we'll kind of have a tide turning on the vegan thing, because people will realize, their health will start to suffer. We're too early into it yet for people to have truly seen the results, and I think we'll have more and more whistleblowing of people going, this isn't working.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we can always hope, and then just continue to do what we're doing, here on YouTube and on Instagram and wherever else we can. So okay, well, I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I know it's you're about 5 hours ahead of me right now, but what I'll do is I'll put your website address in the description, and your Instagram is what, Natasha is wide-eyed. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So I've got a YouTube channel as well. So and Natasha is wide-eyed on there as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll search that out. Wasn't aware that you had a YouTube, but I'll definitely link that down in the description as well.
Right.
And then we can sort of continue what we're doing with just trying to change the world one person at a time, I guess.
Definitely.
I know it's a big job, but someone's got to take it on, right?
That's it. And if we all club together, we might make some headway.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it was great talking with you.
And you, thanks so much, Jason. It's been really
Yep.
great.